When Emily extended that water bottle toward the dirty hands of the homeless man, her father screamed with all his fury, "Drop that! That man is filthy!" But she didn't let go. And what happened next left the millionaire on his knees in the middle of the desert, because that old man wasn't who everyone thought he was. And that water wasn't ordinary water either. David had built empires with his own hands. He had the power to buy entire hospitals. He'd taken his blind daughter to the best specialists in the world. But he never imagined that the answer to his prayers would be in the trembling hands of a stranger, begging for a simple drop, so he wouldn't die of thirst. When the traveler touched Emily's eyes with those dirt-covered fingers moistened in blessed water, something impossible happened. But before I tell you about that miracle, you need to know how it all began, because this story starts with a powerful father who believed money could buy anything, even his little daughter's sight. And it ends with a truth that will change the way you see life forever. The midday sun fell like molten lead over the desert. It was the kind of heat you don't feel on your skin. You feel it in your bones. The kind of heat that makes even the rocks sweat. And in the middle of that golden hell on a hill of cracked earth stood David Morrison, in his $3,000 gray suit and Italian shoes covered in fine dust that he shook off with disgust every few minutes. David wasn't a man accustomed to discomfort. At 45, he had conquered the construction world with an iron fist. His buildings touched the clouds in 3 states. His name opened doors that didn't even exist for others. But there was one door no golden key could open, the door of his daughter's closed eyes. Emily was 10 years old and had never seen a sunrise. She'd never seen her father's face. She'd never seen the color of the sky she loved to imagine when the wind caressed her cheeks. She'd been born with blindness that doctors called irreversible. That word, irreversible. David hated it with every fiber of his being, because for him, nothing was irreversible, nothing that money couldn't break, buy, or change. But the years passed, and Emily remained in her darkness, and David kept building empires as if the tallest buildings could compensate for the lack of light in his little girl's eyes. That day, David had brought Emily to the desert for a specific reason. He wanted her to experience his most ambitious project yet, the Imperial Oasis, a 5-star luxury resort he would build right there, in the middle of nowhere. A jewel of crystal and marble in the heart of the driest desert in the state. "Emily, sweetheart," David said, kneeling beside his daughter and taking her small hands. "We're going to build something magical here. Imagine a pool so large it'll seem like the water has no end. Infinity edge, like the water falls straight into the sky." Emily tilted her head. Her closed eyes seemed to be looking at something no one else could see. "Dad," she said, in a soft voice, almost a whisper, "this land, I feel it's sad, like it's crying inside." David laughed, an uncomfortable laugh. "My girl, the earth doesn't cry. It's just dry land. But we're going to bring life here. Water, gardens, trees. We're going to create paradise." "And the people who live here?" Emily asked. "The ones who need the water?" David pressed his lips together. "Honey, nobody lives here. It's empty desert. Nobody comes here." But Emily didn't seem convinced. Her small fingers touched the hot earth, as if she could read stories written in the dust. Around them, David's team worked. Engineers with tablets, architects with blueprints, assistants running back and forth with bottles of imported mineral water, ice cold, with condensation droplets glistening under the sun. They'd set up a white tent with portable air conditioning. Inside was a table with gourmet sandwiches, organic fruit, and a cooler full of drinks. The contrast was obscene. 500 yards away, the desert stretched cruel and endless. Not a bush, not a bird, only thirsty silence and earth that seemed to scream for a drop of mercy. David stood up, dusting off his pants. "Come on, Emily, I'm taking you to the tent. It's too hot out here." But before they could move, one of the engineers shouted, "Mr. Morrison, there's someone's walking this way." Everyone turned. And there, like a mirage taking shape, a human figure appeared, stumbling in the distance. At first it seemed like an illusion of the heat, But with each passing second, the figure became more real, closer, more desperate. It was an old man, or at least he seemed old, though the desert sun ages anyone. His clothes were gray and brown rags, impossible to tell if they'd once been a shirt and pants or just fabrics tied to his body. His face was sunburned, wrinkled like old paper, covered in dust mixed with dried sweat. But what was most striking were his lips, cracked, bleeding at the corners, swollen, and his eyes. God, his eyes. They were like empty wells where hope once lived. The traveler reached the construction perimeter and stopped. His legs trembled so much it seemed he'd collapse at any moment. He raised a trembling hand like someone asking permission to exist. Please. His voice was a raspy whisper, like sand falling on stone. Please. Water. Just one drop. I've been days. The silence that followed was terrible. Everyone on David's team froze with their mineral waters in hand, staring at the old man as if he were a ghost. Or worse, a problem. David felt something twist in his stomach. It wasn't compassion. It was irritation. This man, this filthy beggar, was ruining his perfect moment. How had he gotten here? Why today? Why right when he wanted Emily to feel the greatness of his project? Listen, David said, walking toward the old man but keeping a safe distance. This is private property. I don't know how you got here, but you need to leave. We're working. The traveler took a step forward. He almost fell. Please, sir, just water. I'm not asking for money, not asking for food, just a drink, or I'll die here. Several team members looked down, uncomfortable. One of the assistants, a young woman, started searching in her backpack, probably for a water bottle to give him. But David raised his hand authoritatively. No. His voice was firm, cold as the ice floating in their drinks. If we give him something, more will come. It's always like that. Give them an inch and they take a mile. Mike, Rob, get this man off the perimeter. Carefully, but get him out. Two security guards, large men with reflective vests and crackling walkies, began approaching the old man. And that's when Emily's voice cut through the air like a knife of light. No! Everyone turned. The girl was standing, hands extended forward, feeling the air. Her face, usually so serene, was contorted in an expression of pure anguish. Don't touch him. Don't make him leave. David ran to his daughter. Emily, honey, don't worry. That man is fine. He's just going to go to... Dad, he's dying. Tears began rolling down Emily's cheeks. I feel it. I feel his heart beating slowly. I feel his mouth is full of dried blood. Dad, he needs water. David felt a chill despite the heat. Sometimes Emily said things like this, things she shouldn't be able to know, as if her blindness had opened other senses that normal people don't have. My love, we have to be practical. We can't help everyone who... But Emily wasn't listening anymore. She started walking, feeling with her small hands, following some kind of internal compass only she could sense. She walked directly toward where the old man stood. Emily, no, he's dirty. David ran after her, but Emily was fast when she was determined. She reached the traveler and stopped in front of him. The old man also stood still, looking at her with a mixture of surprise and something more, something that looked like recognition. Child, the old man murmured. Blessed child. Emily extended her hands and touched the man's face. She ran her fingers over the deep wrinkles, over the burned skin, over the cracked lips, and as she did, tears kept falling from her closed eyes. Sir, Emily said with a trembling voice, don't cry inside. I'm going to help you. David arrived and tried to pull his daughter back. Emily, please. But Emily broke free. With determined movements, she searched in the small bag she wore across her chest. She pulled out her thermal bottle. It was small, pink with star stickers. David had filled it that morning with French mineral water, ice cold, because Emily loved feeling the cold on her lips. Emily unscrewed the cap. The sound was crisp in the tense silence. And then, without hesitating for a second, she extended the bottle toward the old man. "Here, sir. It's really cold. You can drink it all. It's all yours." Time seemed to stop. David felt something explode inside his chest. "Emily, no, that water is yours. It's special. That man he's thirsty." Emily finished, turning her face toward where she felt her father was. Though she couldn't see him, David felt those closed eyes pierce through to his soul. "Dad, I'm not thirsty. I have faith. And faith without water for the thirsty is worthless." This is the perfect moment for the first CTA, 30% into the video. Wait, before I continue with what happened next, if this story is touching your heart, if you feel something inside you stirring, give me a like, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see miracles forever. Hit that like button now, and let's continue. The old man took the bottle with hands that trembled so much David thought he'd drop it. But he didn't drop it. He brought it to his lips slowly, as if it were a sacred chalice, and he drank. He drank slowly. Each sip seemed to return a piece of life to him. The cold water went down his throat, and you could see his entire body shudder with relief. He drank, and drank, and drank, until only a small puddle remained at the bottom of the bottle. Then he stopped. He looked at the remaining water. And then he looked at Emily with an expression none of those present would ever forget. It was a mixture of gratitude, pain, and prophecy. "Child," the traveler said, and his voice no longer sounded raspy. It sounded clear, deep, like an echo coming from very far away and very close at the same time. "You have given drink to one who thirsts. You have shared your treasure with a stranger. You have seen my need when everyone else only saw my filth." Emily smiled, a pure smile without ego, without expecting anything in return. "Don't worry, sir. God gives water from the earth, and we must give it from our hands." The old man closed his eyes. Tears, real tears, not sweat, not dust, began running down his cheeks. "You have a heart that sees what no one else sees, little one. You see through the darkness. You see the invisible. And whoever gives drink to one who thirsts in the desert of this cruel world deserves to see the glory of creation." David felt a chill run down his spine. There was something about the way the old man spoke. It wasn't the voice of a beggar. It was the voice of someone else. The traveler moved the bottle, letting the remaining water swirl. He moistened his fingers in that water. His fingers were dirty, covered with desert earth, black under the nails. But when he pulled them from the water, something strange happened. The water didn't become dirty. The earth dissolved in the water, and the water remained clear, crystalline, shining. "No, don't touch her." David lunged forward to stop him, but it was too late. The old man extended his hand and touched Emily's closed eyelids. He passed his moist fingers over the girl's sealed eyes, drawing small crosses. And as he did, he murmured words in a language no one recognized. Or maybe it wasn't a language. Maybe it was the sound of the wind when it tells secrets, the sound of water when it forgives dry earth. Emily gasped, her little body tensed. "Dad. Dad. It burns." David pulled her to him, away from the old man. "What did you do to her? What the hell did you do?" His voice was pure panic, pure fury. But Emily raised her hands and placed them on her father's chest. "No, Dad. It's not bad. It's like when the sun comes up. It burns, but it's light. It burns, but it's good." The old man stepped back. Then another step. His face had changed. He no longer looked so emaciated. He no longer looked so human. There was something in his eyes. A depth that shouldn't exist in mortal eyes. "The water she gave you," the traveler said, looking directly at David, "wasn't just water. It was mercy. And mercy, when given without expecting anything, breaks curses, opens what's closed, restores what's lost." What are you?" David could barely speak. His voice trembled. The old man smiled. A sad smile, ancient, full of centuries. I am a wanderer. I am a test. I am the one who knocks on doors to see who opens. Some see me and offer water. Others see me and call the guards. He started walking toward the desert, toward the horizon where the sun created mirages of lakes that didn't exist. "Wait!" David shouted. "My daughter! What did you do to her? Come back here!" But the traveler didn't stop. He kept walking, and with each step, his figure seemed to become less solid, less real, as if he were made of smoke and promises. "Dad." Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "Dad, something's happening." David looked at her, and what he saw made him fall to his knees. Emily was blinking. Her eyelids, which had never opened completely, which were always half closed like broken curtains, were moving. Up, down, up, down. "It burns, Dad, like I have dirt inside and the water is washing it away." Tears began flowing from Emily's eyes, but they weren't normal tears. They were tears mixed with something dark. Dirt. Mud. As if years of darkness were being expelled in liquid form. "Emily, my love, look at me. Look at me, please." David took his daughter's face in his hands, not caring that the dirty tears stained his suit. Emily blinked. Once, twice, 3 times, and then she opened her eyes. Not completely, not suddenly. It was slow, like a flower that has waited 1,000 years to open to the sun. First it was just a crack, light entering after a decade of absolute night. Emily moaned. The desert brightness was too much, too much. But she didn't close her eyes. She fought the urge, and little by little, millimeter by millimeter, her eyelids lifted, and she saw the light first. Only light, white, golden, blinding. Then shapes, moving shadows, then colors, the blue of the sky, the gold of the sand, the gray of her father's suit. And then she saw David's face. David Morrison, the relentless tycoon, the man who had built empires without shedding a tear, collapsed. He fell to his knees in the dust, holding his daughter as heartbreaking sobs came from his chest. Sobs he'd held back for 10 years. Sobs he'd suppressed with work, with money, with pride. "Dad." Emily extended her small hand and touched her father's face. And this time, for the first time in her life, she knew what he looked like. "Dad, you're beautiful. You look like a sad prince." David couldn't speak. He only cried. His perfect, powerful man makeup melted with each tear. Emily looked around. Her new, inexperienced eyes moved slowly, trying to process a world she'd always imagined but never seen. She saw the sky. She saw the clouds. She saw the engineers and architects who were frozen, some with hands over their mouths, others openly crying. And then she saw the desert, the cracked earth, the cruel dryness, the absence of life. "Dad," Emily said in a small voice, "this is where you're going to build paradise?" David nodded, still unable to speak. Emily shook her head slowly. "No, Dad. There's already a paradise. It's in giving water to the thirsty. It's in touching the dirty. It's in seeing with the heart before seeing with the eyes." That's when one of the engineers shouted, "Mr. Morrison, the old man, look." Everyone turned to where the old man had walked. The desert stretched flat, unobstructed, miles and miles where you could see a rabbit a mile away. But the traveler had disappeared. There was no one, only sand, and in the sand, footprints. Footprints of bare feet that led in a clear direction north. But the footprints ended. They simply ended in the middle of nowhere. As if the man had walked 20 steps and then evaporated into thin air. One of the guards ran following the footprints. He reached where they ended and stopped, looking around in panic. "There's nobody. There's nothing. The footprints just stop." A thick silence fell over the group. The kind of silence that happens when the earthly world and the invisible world touch for a second, when the impossible becomes undeniable. Emily squeezed her father's hand. Dad, was he? I don't know, my love. David kissed his daughter's forehead once, twice, 3 times. I don't know, but whoever he was, you gave him water, and he gave you sight. The days that followed were a whirlwind. David canceled all his meetings. He took Emily to the best ophthalmologists in the country. They all reached the same impossible conclusion. Emily had completely functional eyes, healthy retinas, perfect optic nerves, crystal clear corneas. But doctor, David asked them over and over, she was born blind. You yourself saw the studies. You said it was irreversible. The doctors shook their heads, confused. Mr. Morrison, we have no explanation. The old studies clearly show a congenital malformation. But now her eyes are perfect, more than perfect. They have the clarity of someone who has never seen artificial light. It's as if they were just created. Created. That word haunted David. At night, while Emily slept, he'd take out the little pink bottle with star stickers. He'd saved it. He hadn't washed it. There were a few drops of water at the bottom. He'd look at them against the light, searching for something, a sign, an explanation. But it was just water. Or maybe not. 3 weeks after the miracle, David called an emergency meeting with all his partners, architects, and investors for the Imperial Oasis project. Gentlemen, he said, standing before a conference room full of expensive suits and gold watches, I've made a decision. The Imperial Oasis project is canceled. Chaos erupted. Overlapping voices. What? Are you crazy? We've invested millions. The permits. The contracts. David raised his hand. His face no longer had the hardness from before. There was something different in his eyes. Something soft. Something redeemed. Listen, you all know what happened with my daughter. Some call it a miracle. Others, medical coincidence. I don't know what to believe anymore. But I know one thing. That piece of land isn't for a millionaire's resort. It's sacred ground. One of the partners, an obese man with a red tie, stood up. David, with all due respect, you've lost your mind. Sacred ground? Why? Because a vagrant touched your daughter and she got better? There are medical explanations that his footprints disappeared in the middle of the desert. David interrupted. His voice was calm but firm. 20 people saw it. The footprints ended. The man evaporated. Heat causes mirages, said another partner. Optical illusions. David, we understand you're excited about your daughter, but this is business. We have legal contracts that break them. David pulled out his checkbook. I'm going to compensate each of you. I'll double your investment, but that project isn't happening. In that place, I'm going to build something different. What? The partner with the red tie asked sarcastically. A church? A sanctuary for old beggars? David looked him straight in the eyes. A hospital, an ophthalmology hospital, free, for people like that old man, for people the world has thrown away, for people who can't afford treatments. And at the entrance there's going to be a fountain, a drinking water fountain open 24 hours, and anyone who passes by can drink. No questions, no guards to throw them out. The silence that followed was thick as wet cement. You're throwing away your money, one of the investors finally said. No, David responded. I'm paying a debt. The partners left one by one, some disgusted, others thoughtful. Only the lead architect remained, an older man with white hair. David, the architect said softly, I was there. I saw what happened. I saw the footprints. I saw your daughter's eyes open, and if you say that place is special, I believe you. I'll design that hospital for you, and I won't charge you. David extended his hand. The 2 men shook with a grip that meant more than 1,000 legal contracts. 2 years passed. The Oasis of Light Hospital was inaugurated on a December day, when the desert was colder but equally beautiful. It wasn't ostentatious, it didn't have luxuries, but it had what was necessary: modern equipment, excellent volunteer doctors, clean rooms, and an air of hope you could feel from the moment you crossed the door. At the entrance, just as David had promised, there was a fountain. It was simple: clear stone with water bubbling from the center, falling into a shallow pool. Above the fountain, a bronze plaque read, "Water is given freely, just as grace was given freely to us. Drink, traveler. Drink, thirsty one. Here no one will be turned away." On Inauguration Day, hundreds of people arrived. Humble people from the nearby town, farmers, workers, families with children who had vision problems and had never been able to afford a doctor. Emily, now 12 years old with bright eyes and a luminous smile, cut the ribbon next to her father. When the doors opened, the first patient was an elderly woman of almost 80 who had lost her sight from untreated cataracts. David personally guided her inside. "Welcome, ma'am. We're going to take care of you here." The elderly woman, with tears in her eyes, touched David's face. "God bless you, son. May God bless you as he blessed your little girl." As the day progressed and dozens of people entered seeking help, Emily stayed by the fountain. She put her hands in the fresh water. A small boy, dirty and shy, approached. Can I drink water?" he asked in a frightened voice. Emily smiled. "Of course you can. It's for you. It's for everyone." The boy drank with eager hands. When he finished, he looked at Emily in amazement. "Are you the miracle girl?" Emily shook her head. "No, sweetheart. I'm not the miracle. The miracle is when someone thirsty finds water. The miracle is when someone dirty is touched with love. The miracle is when we see with the heart before we see with the eyes." The boy didn't fully understand, but he smiled and ran off to play. David watched from the doorway. One of the volunteer doctors, a young woman with thick glasses, approached him. "Mr. Morrison, can I ask you something?" "Of course, doctor." "Do you believe that traveler was, you know?" She didn't finish the question, but David understood. David looked toward the desert that stretched beyond the hospital, the same desert where it had all begun. "Doctor, I was a man who believed money could buy everything, even miracles. I learned I was wrong. Miracles aren't bought. They're received, and they're received when your heart is willing to give what it has, even if it's just a bottle of water." "But was he an angel?" David smiled, a sad but peaceful smile. "He was a test, doctor, a test I failed. But my daughter, bless her, passed for both of us. And here we are, still paying the debt, still learning the lesson." That night, after everyone left, David and Emily sat on the hospital steps looking at the stars. The desert at night was cold but beautiful. The sky was so full of stars it looked like someone had spilled diamonds on black velvet. "Dad," Emily said, resting her head on her father's shoulder, "do you think the man will come back someday?" David hugged her tighter. "I don't know, my love. But if he comes back, this time I'll be the one to offer him water first." Emily closed her eyes. She could close them now. What a miracle to be able to close your eyes and know you could open them whenever you wanted. And sighed contentedly. "I think he does come back, Dad. I think he's always coming back with a different face, with a different name, testing us over and over. And what do we do when he returns?" Emily opened her eyes and looked at her father. In that look was a wisdom that shouldn't exist in a 12-year-old girl. But it did exist, earned in a decade of darkness and a second of light. "We give him water, Dad. We always give him water." 3 years later, on a city street, a young businessman in a hurry bumped into a homeless man. The homeless man dropped his cup of coins. The businessman was furious, ready to yell, but before he could say anything, he remembered a story he'd heard. A story about a tycoon, a beggar, and a miracle in the desert. The businessman knelt down. He picked up the coins and added a bill. "Sorry, sir. Are you okay? Do you need anything?" The homeless man looked at him with clear, deep eyes. You already gave me what I needed, son. You already saw me. And he went on his way. The businessman stood there standing in the middle of the busy street with the strange feeling that he'd just passed a test he didn't even know he was taking. At the Oasis of Light Hospital, the fountain kept flowing, day and night, year after year. And on the bronze plaque, the words kept shining under the sun. Water is given freely, just as grace was given freely to us. Because in the end, that was the truth. The only truth that mattered. It wasn't how much you built. It wasn't how much you accumulated. It wasn't how high you climbed. It was how many times, when someone thirsty asked you for water, you set aside your pride, your hurry, your discomfort, and gave. Simply gave. Like Emily had given. Like we all should give. Because you never know, you never really know, if the beggar you reject today is the angel who was waiting to open your eyes tomorrow. And you? What would you do if today, when leaving your house, a stranger asked you for water? Would you give it to them? Or would you walk past? Leave me your answer in the comments. Tell me, where are you watching this video from? What did this story make you feel? Do you know someone who needs to hear it? And if this story touched your heart, share it. Because maybe, just maybe, someone who sees it today will be kinder tomorrow. See you in the next story. And remember, miracles aren't bought. They're received when the heart is ready to give. God bless you. See you soon.